You're listening to the I Love You Keep Going podcast with George Haas. For more information, please visit our website at www.mettagroup.org. That's www.mettagroup.org.
So welcome everybody. This is I Love You Keep Going. It is Thursday, August 7th, 2025 at 7:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And I thought tonight that we would talk about attachment and dependency. What's the difference? It's funny. Uh, Growing up in the meditation world where there was so much conversation about attachment and non-attachment and what that means, and then to throw into the mix attachment theory, which means something completely different, uh, and the cause of suffering being clinging or grabbing onto, attaching in the English way of describing it, and non-attachment being not attaching, not fixating, not clinging. And then attachment theory means clinging or attachment, but in a positive light, uh, not in a dependent way. Uh, so the secure approach is healthy attachment, and the insecure approach is dependence and transaction. So it can be a mess. And so let's begin with the simplest of explanations for attachment and non-attachment. In the Buddhist sense, it really is in fixating the raw sensing experience with meaning, um, taking the world, taking the experience of self and making it into something substantial in the moment that it ends, releasing it. So not clinging to the representations of it, not wanting it to be different than it is, not wanting it to be something else. You have the capacity to sense the object that can be sensed when there's contact consciousness of the sensing experience arises. It's evaluated for urgency. Does it need immediate attention? Does it not matter whether you ever get to it? Is there time for a pleasant experience? Then it's mapped onto the perceptual database of previously defined meanings. And if there's a close enough match, the meaning attaches and it rolls into conceptual reality from ultimate reality. So pure sensing into something. And then in the next moment, the process is repeated. And that clinging, that grasping onto wanting it to be something is where the potential for attachment comes. We attach meaning to the sensing experience, and then unattach it in the next moment as the next thing rolls in. In attachment theory, what we're really talking about is how you form relationships to other people and what quality is that commitment to other people. But it isn't a volitional cognitive process, it's a conditioned process. And so it's important to begin to understand the nature of a view or a mind state that leads to that process. And so they're also intertwined in a way that's useful, I think. In secure attachment, you establish epistemic trust with someone. That is to say, you believe what they say to you. You believe that they have your well-being in mind. So you believe what they say to you, and you believe that they're considering you in the way that they describe the world to you. And then you enter into an agreement where they take care of you in the way that you need to be taken care of, and you take care of them in a way that they need to be taken care of. And you collaborate with each other to understand what ways of care those should be, and then you commit to doing them, and then do without being coerced in it. I, uh, I went to a comedy show last night, and one of the jokes was, I want a relationship where when you see that the light bulb is burned out, you change it, rather than me having to badger you for 6 months to change it. So you see that's the person that you've agreed to take care of needs the care that you've agreed upon, and then you just give it to them. And then they see you and understand when you need that care that they've agreed to give you, and they just give it to you when you need it. Dependency, then. What is this idea of dependency? Do we rely on it? And how does that work? In secure relationships, the primary purpose of the relationship is to support exploration. It's to support you finding meaning in life. And really what that translates into is you being able to take the risks that you need to discover the things that you need to know so that your life feels fulfilling, feels meaningful to you. And that if you don't have that support, then what people typically do is begin to limit or restrict the risks that they take for meaning, because the period of being dysregulated that happens in response to risk taking is unsupportable. So what do? What you do is you find people that are good emotional regulators, and you build a social network around you so that you can then take big risks for meaning. And if you get knocked over, you have a place to go. You have a safety net of people who will help you come back into emotional balance, and then encourage you to go explore some more. And if you don't have that, then your capacity for risk taking is diminished, because you have to preserve some form of emotional balance in order to maintain yourself. So that's the thing. And then how dependent do you become on that? How reliable do they have to be? Can you function without it? So I would say that it's reasonable to be dependent on people who are dependable, reliable, we might be. It's reasonable to rely on people who are reliable. It's reasonable to expect somebody to show up for you, and all you have to do to get that to happen is show up for them. There's a balance. Makes sense. And if you lose somebody, which you're always going to do, then you have a capacity to replace them. And in secure functioning people, the idea that you can rely on people is positive, and reliance is also positive. And people do come and go, and you do lose people, and you have a confidence that you can replace them, and so you do. And Mudit,
Hi, George.
I
Could you define reliability in the ways that you've seen with people? Because I feel people have their own lives where, it's getting more and more complex, and people have their own things to do in life. So it just feels like I can't just pull them because I need them right now because they have things going on, but I know they're also reliable. So it's confusing.
Well, I think what you do is you make a series of agreements with people. And in the beginning, the agreements are not substantial. Uh, and you see how they do with keeping agreements. And the more they keep the agreements, the more substantial the agreed care is between you. In Dunbar, I like to talk about Robin Dunbar and his research in terms of uh, the levels of commitment in relationship. There's a line. Above the line, you tell the person everything, and below the line, you tell them some things, which would make sense. You don't want to tell somebody who you don't know is reliable everything about yourself. It doesn't make sense to put that kind of energy out. Um, Everybody needs care, right? And so, how do you go about getting the care that you need, and what do you have to exchange to get it? When you're in purely transactional relationships, it's stuff that's being exchanged, and in secure collaborative relationships, it's care that's being exchanged. So you agree to take care of someone, and they agree to take care of you, and you collaborate with each other on what that care would be, what level of care that would be, and they show up reliably when you need them to. And then when you get into close relationships, you make an agreement with somebody that if you need them, they'll show up, and you exchange with them that if they need you, you'll show up, and so you make that expression.
Can you elaborate on agreement? It just feels very formal. Like for me and my guy friends, it's hard for me to really put that verbally.
Well, then how would you know?
You mean without having that discussion that when I need you, you should be there?
Right.
Well, then that's just testing me. If there's something goes wrong and I call them and I am able to get them reliably.
And then does that relieve the anxiety
Uh, yeah, if I'm able to
of
catch hold of,
wondering whether somebody will show up or not?
well, that's I see. So you're saying that trust is always there, that they will always show up.
Well, I can give you an example in the 80s when AIDS was sweeping through everywhere, and there was no reliable source of care. We just made agreements with each other, which was literally, if I call you and tell you you need to come, you'll come. And so actually, the reason I'm living in LA is because I got one of those calls. I was in New York. My friend John called and said, you have to come now. So within a few weeks, I had come out here. But that was I guess it was quite ordinary in our societies because that was really the only help that we had. So what I'm really saying is that for 40 years, I've been making those agreements with people, and so it seems pretty ordinary to me. So I wonder whether or not you might also be able to do that.
Verbally, I thought it was implicit, but I thought it was just like
No, yeah, everything's explicit, not implicit. How else do you know what the agreement is, and then how else do you track whether they show up or not?
I mean, I've never honestly never seen a guy say another guy about showing up. Like I've never seen that. Said normal.
They don't show up.
No, the having the conversation uh, of of agreements. It's just a naturally flowing energy, right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna mention it to you right now.
What's the inhibition of mentioning it if it's there? Is it a homophobic response?
Not in the, yeah, maybe just like
We can't have a declared emotional bond because it's problematic in what way?
What's the term to say it's not cool? It's not.
It's, it's not cool. It's dorky.
What's the, yeah, exactly. It's, I don't know, the
Uh,
positioning.
the so I can remember with uh, different fellows, the terms were always sort of collegial in the sense of we're bonded, right? Or something along those lines that were much less involved. But I guess I'm a dork, and I think that the explicit expression is important, so you can rely on it, and then also that you can call on them, then, and that the language is understood, so that people know how to respond. You have to come now. Is pretty clear, but only if it's an agreement that you would make. And do you want that level of safety net, I guess, is the question. Do you want to be that transparent with people? I don't understand really why you wouldn't, I guess, is also part of the dilemma in listening.
Explicit agreements. Okay, I'll give it a try. It's just, yeah, I've never done it. I've never heard anybody do it, so it's kind of interesting.
So maybe it's also cultural.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you mean to me? I'd like to know, those those are the quality of thoughts that I have. Can I rely on you? I track that because I also want to balance the amount of energy that I flow into a relationship. If I have that level of commitment, it's significant. I think when we're infants, we want to have the capacity to express ourselves freely. We're not so inhibited unless something bad happens to us. We're just sort of expressive. And then we want to know that there's somebody in the world that is paying attention to us and that they take it in. We want somebody to understand us. We want to be understood. We want to be seen and accepted and understood. And then we want to have an effect on people. We want that expression and that exchange to have an effect. And that's really the cycle of relationship, the cycle of attachment. But if you're inhibited from expressing yourself authentically, then you don't ever really know that. And then how do you know what effect you're having? I worked in rehabs for a dozen years, and it was very common when I would say, and you tell people everything to have just pure confusion. What do you mean? You tell somebody everything. And what that really means is that you can express your experience of the present moment in a complete way without being so afraid of being abandoned. If you did that you leave things out or modify it in a way that you think would be more acceptable to them, so that you can just be plainly authentic, freely and plainly authentic, with the expectation not only will you not be abandoned, but they'll be delighted that you did that, because it's so unusual, as you're describing. It's unusual for people to be expressive and authentic in that way. Do you feel safe? That's another question, another way to look at it. Do you feel confident that they'll respond when you need them?
One thing I noticed is either you start with the view that it is already safe,
Right.
or you wait and watch, which is not a very fun view of, like, you're waiting and watching if the other person will accept you or not,
Right.
instead of you acting as if the other person is already safe.
The yes, that's that I talk about it often as the expectation of what will happen. In each moment when we create reality, we create it with the expectation of what will happen, and conditioning of and attachment strategies each come with that view. So uh, secure people's assumption is that you'll be responsive to them, that they can express their needs and you'll be responsive to their needs. Dismissing people expect to be rejected. And so there's a defensive quality in the nature of how they relate, how they negotiate relationships, with the caveat that at any moment you could be rejected and you'll have to be responsive to that. Preoccupied people have a view of abandonment, that people are unreliable and that they could be failed at any moment. Disorganized people think that if they reveal themselves, they'll be harmed. And so they're very protective about their authentic expression. Uh, it's difficult to actually, not only is it difficult to get them to tell you, it's difficult for them to be able to tell you what's authentically happening with them. And then, so the reliable piece is really mainly for secure people, because they'll tell you what's going on with them, and then they'll be responsive to what they've said. And insecure and disorganized people don't really do that. But where the dependency piece comes in, that's a little bit different than that. When you have the point of view, which secure people do, that the world is filled with people who will be responsive to them, they don't get hooked into relationships that don't work well, because they think that the relationships are replaceable. It's an insecure and disorganized attachment where you don't think that relationships are readily available, that the dependency tends to creep in. You often think that you'll accept relational terms that aren't useful to you, that are difficult for you, which are painful for you, because there aren't going to be any other relationships, and it's better to accept those terms than it is to be alone. Which is more the insecure. Disorganized people eventually end up alone because uh, the the difficulty of showing up reliably in relationships means that reliable people, or people who can show up in relationships, won't really be in relationship to them. And so they gradually um, end up in relationships with other people who can't show up reliably. And so the relationships are too volatile. And it's often less painful to be out of relationship than in relationship. Who did?
One thing I've noticed is about reliability, especially because I'm traveling and there's a lot of people traveling. You meet people, and you can check reliability of people who are living abroad, or uh, it's you. I mean, that just naturally falls off because you can't check. It's not easy to connect with them because of the distance or whatnot.
Well, there's also, in encountering people that are also uh, that aren't able to commit in a way because of the nature of their work. And you meet somebody where that's also true of you, then you can have these intense encounters because the intimacy is less risky because they're finite rather than a longer term. Or they could be quite lacking in intimacy and more transactional in that. Encounters, affairs. We used to have a more romantic language to describe them. Hookup somehow has less vivaciousness to it. I guess you'd have to know that. The idea that you have to accept the terms of relationship that isn't really good, I think, is the thing that leads to dependency. A common dependent oriented relationship is a preoccupied and dismissing relationship, which is transactional and not particularly intimate, where you depend on each other to provide the roles that you function in, but not the intimacy that you might long for. But usually those relationships are structured in such a way that they're not intimate. And so that you could think to yourself that you wanted intimacy, and yet you've created a relationship where the structure of the relationship prevents the intimacy. So both parties are free to long for intimacy and at the same time be protected from actually having to do it, which would create too much fear to really be engaging in that. How do you declare yourself authentically to the other person? How do you keep the abandonment terror, the threshold for the abandonment terror below the capacity for authenticity? I think that's the key. And as soon as the abandonment terror exceeds the capacity for authenticity, then you're inauthentic in order to regulate the abandonment experience. Inauthenticity is a means of regulating abandonment, terror. But I would say that that's more common than intimate relationships. Just if you look at the distribution of it, more people are in uh, uh, either transactional relationships or in trauma bonding type relationships than they are in intimate relationships. One of the things about practicing meditation is that you realize that there is no later, there's no tomorrow. Uh, Everything happens now. It's the eternity of the present moment, which is really short. That paradox of the human condition. Everything is the present moment. There's never been anything but that. And yet it's fleeting, comes and goes rapidly. How do you adapt to that? And if you have managed intimate relationships and you've been able to maintain them for years or decades, how useful they are to you in terms of understanding what might be meaningful to you. I remember my grandmother, when I don't know, she was in her 80s, said, I just don't know anybody anymore. And I said, what are you talking about? You have lots of friends. And I rattled off 10 people. that she knew. She was an avid bridge player, and she belonged to the garden club, and she grew orchids, and so she had all of these different societies that she traveled around in. And she said, "Oh, those people, I've only known those people for 10 years. I used to know people for 70." And you think back of it, do you know anybody for 70 years? I'm 72, so I know people for nearly 50 years. It's astonishing what that's like, to remember back what we were like and what we're like now. And the record of you in somebody else is an astonishing thing. So it's to your advantage to tell them what's actually happening so that later, when you want to look it up, it's available in their experience of you, right? What are we doing here if it isn't to be in relationship to other people? And then how do we do it? If we're so as in the attachment world, we can test you in the strange situation at 10 months old and determine what your attachment strategy is. You didn't have a chance. Your family got you. 70% of people use the same attachment strategy that they had at a year old for their whole life. Right? And if you didn't get a good one, then your whole life is interfered with by the quality of attachment that you can. So it makes sense to pay attention to that and to begin to work at it. I like to say I earned my security at 65. And life is so much better, so much easier, so much less anxious. It's so much easier to get things done than it ever was before. And it wasn't that I didn't try. I mean, I've had 28 years of psychotherapy. I've been sober for 48 years. I've resolved process addictions. And that pattern of I was complexly disorganized. That pattern of some beginnings, even really good beginnings, some middles and no finishes, just went along the whole life. And it wasn't that I wasn't actively interested in trying to stop that from happening. I really was trying to get it to be different than it was. But the conditioning is hard to come through. And now what's exciting, I think, about attachment experience is that there are reliable methods for changing it that you can engage in. And then it's quite different. And then you can pull down the abandonment, terror below the threshold of authenticity. So you can actually tell people who you are. And actually, you can be present for when they delight in you for doing that, which you might not have been able to do. But I think that dependency in relationships really comes from the belief that you have to accept the relationship, because if you don't accept it, you'll be alone. And even a poor relationship is better than being alone. And the discovery that you can form relationships that actually will be of use to you in discovering the things that you need to know, so that life is purposeful, right? How do I define purposeful? You can get out of bed in the morning.
So we're
That you're happy to go do something. Huh? What did?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that you were sharing that. That's very nice. It's also not just that your view changed, but also you made an effort for the right people.
Yeah.
That
Well, and that's that back to the question of making explicit requests, small in nature in the beginning, and see how people do with them. And if they do well with them, making a bigger request, and a bigger request. Do you? I mean, I have people that if I said I need you to come now, they would just come, and I don't worry about it. Uh,
I'm sorry, that's the only kind of request I know, to be honest. Like if I call you that you'll be available. I don't know any other kind of what's a small, what's a large. I
um, let's go have dinner on Tuesday.
every Tuesday.
No, well, it could be every Tuesday, but that's a much bigger ask than just next Tuesday. uh, the uh, all of those little kinds of things. Um, if if you made a dinner arrangement with me for 3 weeks from now, I would probably show up, and you probably wouldn't have to talk to me in the meantime, right? Because I wouldn't make the appointment, or if I couldn't come, I would let you know that something had changed. That's a small level of reliability, but some people don't have that. And then so you're sitting there and you're worried about whether or not they're going to show up or not. Do you have a sense of that ever? And then you get these highs and lows from that. You're worried about whether they're going to show up or not, and they walk through the door and you're just blasted with dopamine. It's intoxicating. Or they don't show up and you're blasted with endorphins and adrenaline and outrage, which is another form of it. But do people do what they say they're going to do, and do they do it reliably enough that you don't worry about it? That's really the measure. What do you think? Have you set up your life that way? Or could you begin to do that now? For instance, with disorganized people, they really think that a good excuse is the same thing as showing up. And so they often don't show up at the last minute and provide an excuse. But I can assure you, a good excuse is not the same as showing up.
Regardless if you want to show up or not, you still show up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you get a better offer, you still show up, right? That was one of the things that, for instance, with preoccupied people, they're always waiting for a better offer, and if they get one, they just take the better offer and don't keep the commitment, which you can do. But as soon as somebody gets wind of you uh, taking better offers, then you become unreliable, right? And then you close off the capacity for real intimacy. In order to take care of somebody in a reliable way, you have to take the resources off the table to be able to provide the care. And one of the strategies that preoccupied people do is they say yes to everything. So you're never sure what the better opportunity is going to be. But then they often find themselves in a situation where they don't have the resources to cover all of the yeses that they've made. And so some of them don't get taken care of. But it gradually limits who's available to you because of that. The idea is to find somebody who's emotionally regulating, that is interested in you, in your authentic expression of you, and is willing to engage and take care of you, and you collaborate with them in taking care of them, and they taking care of you, and that's the basis of secure, functioning relationships, really. They're the dependency aspect of that is that you rely on them, not that you stick around for a relationship that doesn't really provide the care that you need. Is that clear?
I mean, technically, you can teach them as well, right? That's also the thing.
Well, you're bringing your attachment ingredients and they're bringing their attachment ingredients, and you're cooking up an attachment relationship that's unique to the two of you. So, and they're going to need a certain kind of care, and you're going to have the skill set that you have. So often, if there isn't a complete overlap, you're going to have to collaborate on discovering a way to take care of them that you can use your skills to do, that you have the capacity to do, that is going to meet their need. And it's often completely unique to your relationship, because your skill set and what they need are different than what you might have experienced before. And then they do that for you. And the more you do that, of course, the more you can rely on the care of the relationship, but also the more valuable the relationship comes. The better somebody is to take care of you in a way that really supports your exploration, the more valuable that is, because you can get so much more meaning from exploring. Whereas if you don't have that support, we very often limit the risk-taking. And with the risk-taking limited, so does the meaning get limited. That makes sense. And so if you find somebody who can emotionally regulate you, who enjoys taking care of you and is encouraging of your exploration, that's really valuable and hard to come by. And so it needs to be nurtured, right? Because the advantage of that is so great for a life. Now, a lot of us grow up in family systems where we never had any of that. And so the discovery of that is also something that we have to figure out. What is it that we want to explore, and what support then do we need, and who might be able to do that for us? Makes sense.
The last point, you do say that it's hard to come by, so it's not that it's ever present. It's not the view that many relationships are out there. So it is true that it's rare.
Well, it's also true that you don't need so many of them. In Dunbar's research, it was really between, say, 2 and 5 or 6 relationships that you need, not so many. So I think, yes, you could find those 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 relationships that you need.
Mm.
And each relationship is unique, right? and everything is impermanent. Everything comes and goes. Nothing doesn't come and go. The only thing that's permanent is impermanent. Impermanence. Of course, you're also growing and changing, and so the needs that you have will be different. So it's always a process of nurturing your social network, expanding your social network. One of the things that Dunbar noted was that when we're younger and we're in school and when we're just starting out, the volume of people that we meet is much, much greater than it is later in life. And so it seems effortless in a way that we keep finding the people that we need to know. And in some sense, it's a numbers game because you meet so many people that only when you get older and you meet so few people does it suddenly become problematic to meet enough people to find who you need. And he said in his research that most people experience the loss of a significant relationship every 2.5 years. So if every 2.5 years you're losing a relationship that's of importance to you, that means you have to be in the process of replacing them all the time. Otherwise, you'll run out at a certain point. How long does it take to establish a relationship? It's 18 months is a good runway to meet somebody and begin to develop some kind of reliable, functioning relationship. And so every 2.5 years, you're needing a replacement. There's no end to cultivating relationships in order to have the support that you need.
Thank you for saying that. I just thought reliability would mean forever friend. And I was
Oh,
it's kind of becoming
yes.
hopeless. Then that hopelessness is very like kind of saddening or
Oh.
disappointing.
So we want to replace that with confidence that you can do it.
Mm.
That I think that's you go and you meet people and you're confident that if there's a good fit, you can develop the relationship. You know, adults are committed, and also it's a timing question. You nurture the relationship, and it develops as far as it can go based on the available resources. But because everybody's losing a relationship every 2.5 years, there's going to be an opening at some point. So you have to be already in line to get the opening. So, you know, that's the thing about secure people. The relationships come and go, but they keep filling up the openings quickly. They grieve the loss and then replace it. And that's their expectation. They're confident that they can do it. Everybody else has a different view about it.
That's so good to know. I just thought secure people just had it forever, like the same.
Oh,
So good to know. Thank you for saying that.
if you find somebody who's a good relationship to have, you value it and nurture it and try to keep it going as long as you can. But there's also the understanding that, you know, anicca rules, impermanence rules.
Yeah.
Loving kindness. Yeah. All right. So go ahead and take your meditation posture, closing your eyes. Comments, questions? Christian?
I was dozing, and then one of those freaky house centipedes started crawling on me. So it woke me up. So add that to like eyes open if you're dozing, and also a bug crawling on you. And then I woke up, so I was good.
Now, was it a dream centipede or a real one?
No, I had to get up and like it was like clinging onto the back of my leg.
Ah.
I might still be hallucinating though, so
Anyone else? Well, since I talked to you last, we've adjusted the calendar. So we have a level 1 addiction class starting tomorrow, the 9th, and is running for 3 Saturdays. And then on the 13th of September, we're going to start level 1 meditation and attachment. We're going to start a level 2 meditation and addiction on September 15th. The level 2 addiction class goes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. for 12 weeks. The Monday is a didactic. The Wednesday is a meditation class, and the Friday is a dyad. We're going to do a workshop. Whoops. Let's see, when is the workshop? We're going to do an attachment workshop on September 19th, which is 7:30 to 8:15, 8:45, I mean. Let's see what else we're doing. On October 11th, we're going to do meditation and attachment level 1. Is that right? No, I think that's the old one. We're going to do the exploration workshops have been moved to October, so the 11th and the 18th. And then we're going to start a level 2 meditation and attachment on October 21st. Anyway, we're going to do our yearly half day, which I like to call family archaeology, which is actually home for the holidays. So to talk about how to go home and visit family and use it as a way of discovering your attachment conditioning and how it operates in the family system. And that is going to take us through the end of the year. So it's up on the website, take a look. And then in January of next year, we'll begin another level 1. I offer the class freely, but I do hope if you're resourced and you can make a donation, you will. There's a link on the website to do it. Any amount is helpful. It helps supports me and also the work Mettagroup is doing. Really appreciate your practice. It's good to see you, and I hope to see you soon somewhere along the path. Bye.